Hello, everyone. My name is Gabriel Whittemore, and I'm the creator and lead designer of Dinn. Today's stream isn't going to be overly long, but I am going to give you guys a high-level overview of the way we build cards. And if you have any questions during the stream, throw them in the chat, and I'll respond as quickly as I can. Additionally, at the end of the stream today, we'll probably take maybe 10 minutes, if there are that many questions, to just answer a quick Q&A for general questions about the game or anything else you might have questions about. Let me know if my audio or video lags behind. This is the first stream I've done, so we'll see how it goes. Hopefully well. Okay, let's dive right in. When we go through the process of creating a new Dinn card, which is frequently when you want to build a whole bunch of them, you have to ask two questions primarily. What kind of card is needed in the TCG? And what puzzle will we use with the card? These questions have to be asked concurrently. You can't separate them into stages because oftentimes we develop the TCG and ARG in tandem. So if we want to use the name of the card for the ARG or an element of the ARG, and we also want the name of the card to reflect the art of the card, and we also want the name of the card to reflect the ability of the card, you really have to develop all of these concepts at once. So what does that look like? We'll jump over here. So in today's demonstration, we're going to say that we've received feedback that the given deck, which is one of our 6 type of attribute style decks, needs a stronger 3 heart hero to compete with the other decks. It's losing too many of its testing games against all of the other attributes, people don't feel it's very powerful, etc. So we create this card. We take our template here and we modify it. This is just a blank card we use for playtesting. It doesn't even have a name. We just give it attributes, a base power, and an effect that we think will be useful. So we create this, and then we immediately order it to be printed, and we send it to playtesters. Usually we'll print a whole bunch of them, and we'll mark them up, and we'll get feedback from them. We'll see how many games the given deck won with this card in the deck, and how many it didn't without it, etc. So at the same time as we're playtesting the card blank, we go on to start designing the puzzle. And so in this instance, we'd go ahead and commission the artwork for the puzzle, and we'd also start concepting the puzzle. So this deck right here focuses on, the given deck itself focuses on creatures that were given life. Automatons, golems, machines, structures, etc. So we've commissioned here a golem piece of artwork. It's beautiful. And we want to inject it with some puzzle elements. We want people to be able to examine this artwork not only for its beauty, but also to try and discover some underlying meaning. So what we've done here is we've commissioned the artwork, and we've decided to add numerals from Jewish folklore to the artwork itself. The golem is from Jewish culture. It is a creature created out of inanimate substances, so maybe it's made out of crystalline rock in this instance. So it makes sense that if you knew that this was a golem, we could use Hebrew numerals in the artwork of the card itself, and it would be a fairly linear cognitive process. Once you figure out it's a golem, you notice the symbols on the card itself, and you start to discover what kind of symbols those could be, but because you know that a golem is from Jewish folklore, you perhaps would start from there. So we like to keep it somewhat cognitively aligned. In this instance, we'd select a few numbers. So maybe the numbers for 6, 80, and 300. We'd put them in the purple spikes up here, perhaps, or anywhere else on the card. And then we'd jump down to finalizing card design and puzzle design. So once we've added the puzzle to the artwork, once we've selected a name for the card, once all of the feedback for the playtesting has come back, we go ahead and start combining all of these elements. Okay, so in this instance, we want to finish up our puzzle with a fairly simple card code. The puzzle codes are always at the bottom of a Dinn card. Oftentimes, these are the primary way in which we communicate to our players how to finish a puzzle. So once you've discovered the hidden meaning in the artwork, based on the name and the artwork itself. You usually would head down here to the card code and try and piece it together. In this instance, it's a fairly simple URL, but it's missing 6 collections of numbers. Those numbers are hidden in the spikes of the golem itself. If you were to piece those numbers together, you'd get a completed URL. And you'd probably find yourself on a Dinn website. A lot of our cards we develop with a dedicated website. So usually the artwork for the card could be upwards, it falls somewhere between $60 and $100 depending on the complexity of the commission. The ARG elements of the cards add another layer of expense to the design of these cards. So if we want to develop a website for each card, you can expect to add another $50 to $60 plus quite a bit of time to each card. The websites we design for Dinn cards, we've already designed a few. They're designed to look like professionally developed websites. I'm a website developer, so that's a fairly simple process for us to perform internally. But we always add indicators that you're on a Dinn website. We don't want our players to find themselves on a website and wonder, am I here because of the puzzle or is this some other website? We don't want anyone to get into any trouble. So you'll find that on Dinn websites, you will always find Dinn's icon language utilized on the website. So you'll see Dinn icons on the website wherever it makes sense. And the footer of the website will always have our logo on it. And so if you're solving Dinn puzzles, you'll want to look for those. Those will tell you that you're in the right place. Otherwise, you're not on a website that we've developed, and you're probably not following the puzzle correctly. So Dinn websites, this is for the given deck. We would customize this website very heavily to reflect the ARG elements of the game. And so what I mean by that is the given deck, the blue deck, focuses on a character in the ARG called Toby, T-O-B-I. And Toby, in the story of Dinn, has a specific part to play. And so you'd learn more about Toby as a character, you'd learn more about what he's done in the story of Dinn, and you'd learn more about what he could potentially do on these websites. And so these websites, we always commission with additional elements. And those elements are blog posts, professionally recorded voice recordings, a variety of website content, professionally written documents, videos, and more. We brought in some great and very talented writers, voice actors, and obviously artists. And everything, the entirety of the first season of Dinn is all focused on the mysterious disappearance of a young woman in Rock Springs, Wyoming. These professionals have really helped us bring this story to life. Well, now when you do finish a puzzle, in the current Kickstarter, an individual would receive an individual reward. Going forward, it's unlikely we will continue doing that. We received a lot of feedback that people prefer a more community-focused reward structure in the game of Dinn. And so going forward, if the Kickstarter is unsuccessful, which it looks like it will be, we're going to be switching to a structure where when a puzzle is solved, the reward card is not sent to that one individual or group, the people that solve the puzzle. It is added to the next concurrent chapter pack that is released as a free card. Kind of, if you consider it free, since you have to buy the pack to get it. But this allowed us to be a little bit more inclusive with the rewards of the cards and to perhaps make it so that the community could involve each other without worries that you'll have to always be on your game. If you miss the first couple days of solving a puzzle, maybe you won't get the reward card at all. Or if we ship these packs to another country, we're located in the United States, and say we ship one of these packs to France, does the travel time disbar you from even competing? So that's no longer going to be a concern going forward, because it's going to be a straightforward process where everybody solves it as a community. If you miss the solution of the puzzle, that's okay, because when you purchase the next chapter pack, you'll still receive the reward. All right. I know that was pretty quick. It's kind of a quick process to talk about, but actually developing the cards is quite complex. Just selecting the material we were going to use today was difficult, because all of the riddles and puzzles we've actually developed over time that we love, we really didn't want to spoil by giving away the solutions to. So this is a puzzle that, similar to other puzzles we've developed, this is a similar puzzle to other puzzles we've developed, but it is not an active puzzle. So with that in mind, Does anyone have any questions? I think that the chat is active, but I don't see any questions coming through YouTube. So I think that this might be close to just wrapping up our first kind of quick stream. So I'll just kind of chat into the microphone here and wait a second to see if we get any questions, but largely I think that this might just about be it. Okay. All right, well, we're going to start streaming fairly regularly, and we're also going to start, okay, so Bryce Thompson just asked, what will happen if it isn't fully backed? Okay, so we have a Kickstarter running right now. We chose an ambitious goal, and the Kickstarter itself, it clearly had some issues. It was the first Kickstarter I've ever really focused on. And there's an art to running Kickstarters by itself, which is unrelated to developing a card game or running a business. The Kickstarter right now does not look like it will be fully backed. What we'll be doing is we'll probably be launching a soft release in September, November, December of this year. And that soft release will include a restructured website, a more streamlined game experience, and we're going to be changing the game just a tiny bit. And so what I mean by that is more than likely the Kickstarter will fail at the end of this upcoming week. We already have 2 decks completed. We have the Beast and Sentient deck, the starter decks finished, and they're ready to roll. We also have their puzzles fully developed, and we brought in voice actors and professional writers for all of the ARG elements for those decks already. Additionally, we have a redesigned introductory chapter pack. In the Kickstarter, we had a traditional booster pack, which is honestly where the majority of the money was required, right? A traditional booster pack where every piece of art costs $100 or between $100 and $80, and the puzzles cost around that as well. It was over half to 3/4 of the cost of the Kickstarter. We've combined those 2 packs into 1 pack for the soft release. They're going to be chapter packs of 10 pre-selected cards. Every time one of those cards is solved, the next chapter pack gets a bonus card. The reward card for that solved card, and we'll release them every 2 months. Anyone can be a part of the soft release. Bryce just asked that again. Bryce just asked how do you become a member of that soft release? Anyone can become a member of it. We're simply going to be putting the 2 starter decks and the individual chapter packs on our website for sale. You'd purchase them just like you would any product directly from a vendor. And so there'll just be a little checkout. You select the items you want. Because the Kickstarter failed, we're not going to be purchasing the packaging material that we really wanted for the starter decks. And so the cards are high quality, but the boxes are going to be kind of standard tuck boxes. So the starter decks will actually be cheaper than they are currently on the Kickstarter. I think they'll be somewhere between $10 to $16, but they're going to be on the lower end of that. And then the individual chapter story packs will probably be roughly the same price, just because of the quick turnaround time to develop the puzzles. Oh, also every card in those chapter story packs can be added to your deck, so they'll modify how you play the ARG or the TCG. Oh, Will just added in. He's been our most active partner in developing Dinn, and he's helped me through this entire process. He's part of our Dinn staff. He wants us to talk a little bit about. We wanted to go for a larger scale, but then the smaller scale was great. It's not the high mark we thought it might happen. Exciting the right. Yeah. So we were going for a really large scale release, but this smaller scale release will really allow us to connect with our audience and could potentially provide some really valuable feedback. Bryce, yes, there is an email you can sign up for to receive an update for when we launch the soft release. If you go to our website, I'll bring that up, dinncards.com, and you go and you hover over the news item in the menu bar, you'll see that there's a Stay Updated tab. I'll post the link to that in here. You can subscribe to our mailing list. That mailing list we'll use fairly infrequently, so you should never get spammed by it, but we will send out large-scale Dinn releases via that mailing list, so when we release new starter decks, and when we launch the soft release, we'll go ahead and send an email to all of our subscribers that way. Also, you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, you can join our Discord, and you can obviously always just check the website. Those are great ways to stay updated. And jumping back to what Will said real fast, this is a smaller scale release, which means we'll only have the chapter packs available one at a time and 2 starter decks at launch. However, depending on how many of those products we sell, we'll be able to finish the development process for the other decks fairly quickly. So we have 6 starter decks in total for the 6 attributes, and so if we sell a large amount of our first 2 starter decks, the Sentient and Beast starter decks, that'll help us develop the other 4 remaining starter decks very quickly. Koan just asked, why don't you try another Kickstarter in a different way? That's a good question. Right now, what we want to do is we want to build up an audience to even support a Kickstarter. Something that we underestimated when we launched our current Kickstarter. You know, we hired a professional cinematographer to develop the videos. Will and I both have a lot of marketing background experience. We both work in communications. And so we have this great background knowledge of how to communicate and manage this sort of project. However, the element that we were missing for the Kickstarter, which is quite apparent, is we had no audience to reach out to. Everybody that's finding the Kickstarter is finding it raw. They're discovering Dinn and having to decide to make a pledge within a 30-day period without really understanding any of the backstory of how we've developed it or whether or not it's a legitimate organization. We think this soft release will allow us to at least build the credibility in the audience to maybe potentially launch another Kickstarter down the road if we need to. It might be a good strategy to launch a Kickstarter just to fund the remaining 4 starter decks so that we have a full portfolio of starter decks after the soft launch if we have enough of a customer base. But that's something we'll kind of look at depending on our audience and how the first few chapter packs sell and how our game is received by our audience. Okay. All right, it looks like the questions have kind of stopped flowing in. It's still fairly quick, 17-minute stream, but that's not so bad considering. Yep. We'll just clarify that Kickstarter is kind of its own beast. We could use it for specific expansions in the future, and we very well might. Garrett just asked about our fabric playmats. Garrett, that's a good question. Initially, we were only going to order a handful of those because they're incredibly expensive to order in small runs. I think the one in the video, the Kickstarter video that we launched, was something like $50, and no one wants to spend $50 on a playmat for a game where the actual decks of cards cost $15 a piece. That said, I am thinking about a variety of different ways to get those playmats out to our customers. Our soft launch probably won't contain the fabric playmat because it is too expensive to order in small numbers. However, we might post the design for it and offer an affiliate link, which allows you to go out and purchase it from some of the playmat creators that we've utilized in the past. We might also order a variety of them in the future, but for the soft launch, probably not. But we will have options for you to find. We will have options for you to get the design and order them yourself if you'd like directly from our vendors. But they will be expensive. We just don't feel comfortable selling, marking up. Even if we didn't mark it up at all, you'd still be looking at like a $60 purchase from us, and it would just be a time sink for us to package and ship, and then you would end up spending $60 on what should have been a $50 playmat. Or less, honestly. Okay. Cohen just specified the Kickstarter is a great way to start a community, and it is. The Kickstarter, we launched the Kickstarter without anyone even knowing what Dinn was. We had a small group of core testers. We had a lot of great feedback from those testers. Will was in charge of a lot of the testing feedback. But largely, no one even knew we were going to launch Dinn. And so, the fact that we already have, 30 people in the Kickstarter, or 30 people in our Discord, we have a variety of people following us on social media. Our website is getting some great traffic these days. This was although the Kickstarter is going to be unsuccessful, it was still a successful way to launch this game because we really met a lot of great people, and we found a lot of great audience members who we think we're going to resonate with as we proceed with our soft launch. Okay. All right, well, that seems like it just about wraps it up. I want to thank you guys for stopping into the stream today. I'm going to make sure that this video is available on our YouTube channel. We're going to go ahead and start publishing more videos and reaching out with more developed content going forward, including more streams. So keep an eye on our YouTube channel, subscribe if you haven't already. And of course, jump into our Discord if you want to stay up to date on general conversations on Dinn. Okay, thanks everybody, and have a great day. Thanks again for stopping in.